Have you ever asked yourself, why is Oregon so white? Oregon's racial composition is heavily influenced by the implementation of three black exclusion laws during its early history. Prior to the state's admittance into the Union in 1859, Oregon fashioned itself as a white utopia. When it became a state, it was only one that explicitly forbid certain races from occupying, laboring, and possessing land within its boundaries. Although these laws were revoked, they were generally effective in preventing black people from inhabiting Oregon in its formidable years, and consequently, Oregon would develop into a primarily white state. In the 1840s and 50s, white settlers who came to the Oregon Territory were largely against slavery, yet many of them were against living in close proximity to black people. This was particularly due to fears that they would be used as competitors, as settlers were largely non-slaveholding farmers from places like Missouri and other border states that had already had difficulty competing against those that owned slaves. Furthermore, they were concerned that African Americans would conspire with native tribes and threaten their increasing settlement of that land. Despite this, a relative small number of black people did settle in Oregon during this time period, and a few immigrants from other states brought slaves with them, taking advantage of the lack of enforcement of anti-slavery laws in the area. In 1843, Oregon's small white population voted to incorporate the 1787 Northwestern Ordinance provision into its 1843 organic laws prohibiting slavery and voluntary servitude in the territories unless the person had been convicted of a crime. The law was amended in 1844 and gave slave owners a limited amount of time to either remove their slaves or set them free if they refused to take action. According to Peter Burnett's Lash Law, those that failed to obey this order would be publicly flogged with no less than 20 and no more than 39 stripes. Peter Burnett stated that the purpose of this law was to keep clear of the most troublesome class of the population, black people. He believed that Oregon was in a unique position to avoid the same struggles with African Americans that the rest of the United States and other countries had endured. But because the lashing penalty was judged to be unduly harsh, it was rescinded by voters in 1845 before anyone could be actually punished. September 21st, 1849, the territorial legislature of Oregon passed the second exclusionary law, which prohibited any black American from entering or residing in Oregon, with the exception of individuals who were already present in the territory. This legislation was prompted by fear that African Americans would spread ideas of hostility among the native population towards white people. It was also abolished in 1854. November 7, 1857, delegates of Oregon's Constitutional Convention presented a proposal to legalize slavery and an exclusionary clause to its voters. The proposal to legalize slavery was overwhelmingly rejected, confirming Oregon's status as a free state. However, the exclusionary clause was agreed upon by a wide margin. It would be included in their Bill of Rights. This clause prohibited black individuals from entering the state of Oregon, owning property, or making contracts. As a result, Oregon became the only state to join the Union with an exclusionary clause in its constitution barring black people from living and working within the state. Later, several attempts were made by the Oregon legislature to pass some type of enforcement law for the exclusionary policies of African Americans in their state. In 1865, legislature would reject a proposal for a county-by-county census of blacks that would authorize county sheriffs to deport African Americans from their state. This was followed by the Senate committee killing off the final attempt of legislative enforcement in 1866. The clause would end up being rendered mute by the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution, but it was not repealed by voters until 1926. These exclusionary laws, although generally not enforced, had a chilling effect on African Americans coming into the state. In 1860, the census reported that only 128 African Americans out of a total population of 52,000 lived in Oregon. According to estimates in the United States Census in 2019, the Oregon population is nearly 87% white, with the state black population only occupying 2%. Thank you. I'm your host, Country Boy, and this has been One Mic History. I'm going to continue with this mini-series, and if you have questions or you just want to leave your comments, like I said, you can do so at onemichistory.com in the contact page.